is going on, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by Vivid Picks. I am your host, Josh Harris. As you're coming in, make sure to give the show a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. Joining me, as always, the yin to my yang, the yang to my yin. What?
I said not always.
Not always, no, but usually he's on with me. Slim Cliffy, how you doing?
Not doing too bad, actually. I like that intro music. I was just kind of bopping along to it. I really like the new intro music that we have now. No, I'm doing good. Bright sunny day outside. It's like +8, +9 Celsius, which is pretty good for here for this time of year. Got afternoon hockey going on over in Sweden. I think they're on the ice for warm-ups right now. So got hockey just about all day long, I guess. So doing pretty good. Looking forward to tonight in some respects because, again, I think this is a night where there are a bunch of road teams that are definitely in play, particularly in great matchups. Might make some home teams overlooked, so I'm looking forward to breaking that down.
Yeah, it's a nice 8-gamer. 8 games, 7-8 games, beautiful size slate. Don't want to be breaking down 14 games. Don't want to be breaking down 3 games, 8 games.
I was thinking... Sorry, is this the first 8-game slate we've had this year? Like, I know we've had like 6-game slates, and I know there's been, 9, 10, certainly a bunch of like 11 to 14. I don't think we've had specifically an 8-game slate so far yet this season.
I don't think we have. And a little quick story about me. When I started in the restaurant business, my nickname was Ocho. Why? It was a built-in pickup line, but I really don't know why I was called 8. When the ladies ask, they just say, hey, you want to find out? But I don't know. 8-game slate, ESPN 8, the Ocho, hockey. We're good to go tonight.
I mean, media rights for the NHL might end up on the Ocho at some point. So maybe we shouldn't make fun of it too much.
Yeah, it's because the first round of the playoffs ends up playing on the Golf Channel because
outdoor life.
Yeah. I see Mrs. Harris in chat giving me the face palm. What? She knows why they call me Ocho. Anyway.
Wait, what?
No, we're good.
Oh.
Before we get into this slate, if you didn't know, if you lived under a rock, Watch Gamer TV, I think his name was, won $1 million in the 555 Millie Maker. Saul Goodman, shout out, Jess Harris, legend. Yeah, you got to be a legend to birth my children. Know what I mean? Anyway, Watch Gamer TV won $1 million in the 555 Millie Maker. Because he did that, we decided to celebrate by making any Sims package $20 off to new customers. Deal ends on Monday. Our data package now includes access to our simulation tools with support for Showdown. Build up to 10,000 lineups on Stochastic in 60 seconds. With our contest generator, base package allows you to build up to 500 lineups and export up to 20. The max package allows you to build up to 10,000 with unlimited exports. If you are 150 maxers, I go with the max package, get that $20 off. Yeah. So let's get into this slate. It is a doozy. Let's start with the first game. I think it's one of your favorite games on the slate based off the chitter-chatter. The pitter-patter, the chitter-chatter in the chat this morning. Arizona Coyotes with a 3.4 total. Heading into Columbus, the Blue Jackets have a 3.2 total. If you sort by ownership in our top stacks tool, you'll find Arizona top line at the top of the list at 17.9% projected ownership. Now, I think this is price driven. It obviously is. The line is 15,900 on DraftKings. They get a Columbus team that matchups aren't really concerned. Keller has looked excellent this season. Schmaltz still needs to shoot more. Hayton's been struggling a bit, but I don't know. For 15.9, when they were in the 19,000s earlier this year, I don't know, man. 15.9 in a good matchup. It really depends what you want to do with the ownership. On the flip side, I saw some Columbus beats speculating that the top line is going to be Boone Jenner, Patrick Laine, and Johnny Gaudreau. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to go out against Arizona 1, I'll let Cliffy answer that question. But if they somehow can avoid Arizona 1, they're definitely in play for me at 15.5 at 8% still negative leverage there, but there's a 6.5 total and it's trending upwards. I like this game.
I don't. I mean, that's a lot of ownership.
You don't like the ownership.
Yeah, that's a lot of ownership on Arizona, man. Like, I've written about Arizona in my picks article. Today's article's up on Stokastic.com. Head on over to the NHL section to read it. It's free to read almost every single day. It's just a lot of ownership. Like 17% Arizona on an 8-game slate. Like if this was a 4-game slate, I could kind of get that. And like, yes, it is price driven. Like you were saying, there are times they're 18, 19,000 plus just in the last couple of weeks. The reason they have taken that dive down is, as you mentioned, Barrett Hayton having a pretty tough start to the year. I think he's still stuck at 1 point. No, sorry. He's on a 2-game point streak now, 2 assists in 2 games. Look at him go. One of the big problems that I have is just that ownership. Like it is a lot of ownership. The other is Columbus doesn't really take a whole lot of penalties, right? They're at 2.9 times shorthanded per game. That's well below the league average. I think the league average is hovering around 3.5 right now. So, Columbus is one of the 2 or 3 least penalized teams in the league so far this season. And if you look at the damage that Arizona has done so far this year, a lot of it has been on the power play. I'm just looking it up now. 9 out of 16 of Clayton Keller's points have come with the man advantage. Now, the other way to look at it is that, Columbus doesn't have a particularly good penalty kill. They're being saved by great goaltending right now. Like Columbus has a .935 save percentage on the penalty kill, which like teams almost never finish over 900 by the end of the season, especially these days with power plays being much more efficient than they were even just 5-6 years ago. So that's my big problem here is that if Arizona only gets like 2 or 3 power plays, can they have a GPP winning score? At their price, they can, because at 19,000, you probably need them to score 3 goals. At 15,900 on DraftKings, at least, you can probably get away with like 2 goals, and then maybe Hayton has the shot bonus or something like that, right? Like you don't need a hat trick or something from one of the players to really get there. I'm just having a really tough time at that ownership. Like 17% feels like a lot. Like I said, for a slate this size, I think I might almost be more inclined to dip down to Arizona too. Now, the reason for that is like, yeah, I'm not super worried about matchups. But that Columbus second line, Fantilli, Voronkov, Marchenko, small sample, obviously, but really, really bad defensive metrics. 72 shot attempts against per 60 minutes. That's awful. 3.6 expected goals against per 60 minutes. That's also awful. That's the matchup Arizona 2 is probably going to see a fair bit of here tonight. And Arizona 2, while not great defensively, they've been a lot better than that. And pretty good offensively. 2.9 expected goals, 3.7 actual goals per 60 minutes. At 5-on-5 this year. I did write up Lawson Krause in the picks article. Now, I'll bring up top stacks again real quick. That one is coming in a bit over-owned at 4.4%. I don't think you necessarily have to 3-man stack them. I think, a Michelli Krause 2-man, a Bukestad Krause 2-man, something like that, I think is perfectly fine. I honestly think this is just a case where I'd rather go and not spend up. And even though they are cheaper, like not spend up for Clayton Keller and, Nick Schmaltz and those guys, and just rather play the second line. I think they're in a much better matchup. Columbus's top line has not been anything to write home about defensively, but they've been light years better than the second line. Like Jenner and Laine typically do have pretty decent and below average, but decent enough defensive numbers. So I think it's Arizona 2 I like better on that side. On the Columbus side, like Jenner, Laine, and Gaudreau is an interesting combination, and it's funny to be talking about Gaudreau. I just wrote him up a couple days ago at a different website, and the problem is like we mentioned on Tuesday's show, like he doesn't really have anybody to play off of. Like it's just him passing to other people. It's not necessarily people passing to him. And when your offense gets predictable like that, it's not too hard to pick apart defensively and then just go on the counterattack. The difference here tonight is that Arizona is going to be missing Juuso Välimäki. He took a shot to the face. Didn't mean it to sound like that. He took a puck to the face.
After we're talking about Ocho, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
The shot
did. With him out of the lineup, it takes their best defensive defenseman out of the lineup. And I don't think it's particularly close either. And, I was mentioning that in our Discord, the expected goals against goes up like 40% when he's off the ice. Like Arizona goes from pretty good defensively when he's there to well below average defensively on average when he's not there. And then depending on the line, things get even worse. So I agree with you that I think Columbus 1 is in play here because, our top stacks is still showing Chinnikov because we're waiting for an update with Gaudreau going in. I imagine that their top 2 stack percentage is going to be somewhere close to 10%. Like Arizona's been taking a lot more penalties of late, 3.8 times shorthanded per game so far this season. The Columbus power play has been pretty atrocious, but you'll get all 3 guys on the top power play unit with Arizona missing their best defensive defenseman. So I think if anything in this game, I can't believe I'm saying this, it feels like something that's really going to just backfire almost immediately. I think I like Columbus 1 best in this game, and then Arizona 2, and then Arizona 1.
Yeah. Like I like this game ownership agnostic. You throw ownership. I don't like it. It's not as bad as like Nashville from last year because they're a better line than that. But like on an 8-game slate, Arizona 1 against a team that doesn't take a ton of penalties, with that line not being super great. 5-on-5. Wow. I kind of agree that I do like Columbus 1 as long as it is what it is. Let's move on to the next one. My wife has left the chat and is now texting me to shut up. So I will zip it. Vegas with a 3.4 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 2.6 total. Interestingly enough, there is positive leverage on the Vegas top line here tonight. Now, they have admittedly not been very good. I've used them as a Habs team that takes a ton of penalties, a Habs team that has no matchups that are concerning 5-on-5, a Habs team starting Caden Primo. The Habs team, fun on offense and adventure on defense. So, like I have no issues going back to Vegas 1 here. If you want to leave Barbashev off, that's fine. You want to add in, a Mark Stone. You want to add in a William Karlsson if Stevenson's out. I think that's fine. You want to just put Shea Theodore in there. That's fine. I think, Vegas 1 with positive leverage, not super expensive at 18,300. I think, outside of the super expensive lines that we're going to talk about later, it's probably one of my favorite stacks of the night. You can leave Barbashev there, but Vegas, this is a Vegas 1 game for me. On the flip side, I don't have a ton of interest in stacking the Canadiens. You want to one-off a Cole Caulfield, I think that's fine. You want to go to the Habs third line, I think that's fine. But like, I just don't have a ton of interest in the Habs tonight.
Yeah, I do like Vegas 1 here, kind of like in a nutshell. This is where I might get into a little bit of trouble with my Montreal fandom. Like, I'm not saying Montreal's a good defensive team. What I am saying is that Caden Gooley and Jonathan Kovacevic have been a really good defensive pair since Gooley came back from injury. I was talking about it on Twitter this morning. The expected goals against with Gooley and Kovacevic on the ice is like 1.8 per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, which like I don't remember a time seeing a number like that on a Montreal defensive pair. It's been like 6 or 7 years. They've been really, really good. Like 1.86 expected goals against per 60 minutes, 1.34 actual goals against. Like, they've been really, really good defensively, and they've been able to shut down a lot of good top lines that have come in to Montreal of late. You just got to go look at Calgary the other night. Calgary got both their goals from the second line, right? the game before that against Vancouver. Now, don't get me wrong, Vancouver kind of pantsed them a little bit, but it was the second and third lines that did the damage, right? Elias Pettersson was held off the scoreboard. Andrei Kuzmenko had 1 assist with 1 shot or something like that. Like, they've been doing pretty well at shutting down top lines. It's the second and third lines that have been doing the damage against Montreal. And I think for that reason, I kind of like Vegas too here today. You're mentioning the top stacks. Vegas' top line perfectly fine, 8.6%, 11.7% top 2 percentage. So there's positive leverage. There probably will not be a lot of ownership on that Vegas line as a trio. But Mark Stone's, like you and I had talked a lot about how the Stone-Stevenson line for Vegas was looking pretty bad this year. And it's been, I think, 3, maybe 4 games without Stevenson now. And Stone and Will Carrier have been really, really good. They're at about 52 minutes together, 88 shot attempts for, 59 against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Like, that is more like a Mark Stone line that we would anticipate, and not whatever him and Stevenson did through the first 4 weeks of the season. 5.1 expected goals. Like, those are really absurd numbers. And we don't know exactly what Montreal's lineup is going to look like, because I didn't see lines for morning skate. I've been searching Twitter. I haven't been able to find anything. If Josh Anderson's still in the top line, that's not going to be a great defensive line. But like Christian Dvorak and Juraj Slafkovsky, if that ends up being the second line, like, I like the way they've been playing offensively. It's been, a tire fire defensively, to be kind about it, right? They're not going to get the great defensive pair of goalie and Kovacevic behind them. Slafkovsky's still not a good two-way winger. Cole Caulfield, he can turn pucks over, but he's good in his own zone, but he's not great. Like, it's not a great second line. So I think Vegas' second line is kind of what I like best here. I don't know if you have to necessarily full stack them, but certainly like a Stone Carrier, Stone Amadio, something like that. I would make sure to get Mark Stone in there. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. But I think it's Vegas too. I like best on the Vegas side. On the Montreal side, I think I agree with you. Like, there's no full line stack that I'm really targeting here, especially where we don't really know what the lines are going to look like. I do like Caulfield in a nutshell. I just think 7,300 is a lot to pay. You're really banking on him getting to the 5-shot bonus at that point. Can it happen against Vegas? Sure. I think it's a little tough. I think it's one odds for Montreal or nothing for me, and I like Vegas too on the Vegas side.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I just happen to like Vegas 1 because, the amount of penalties that Montreal takes. And if you're going to give Vegas a bunch of chances on the power play, I want Eichel on the power play. So, but yeah. New Jersey Devils with a 3.2 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.5 total. These Devils, man. Timo Meier is a game time decision tonight. I forget who skated in this place this morning. I'm kind of expecting him, but we'll have to wait and see in warmups. There is not a lot of ownership on Pittsburgh here tonight. And maybe that comes up. Maybe, the model is used to Hughes and Heischer and whatever being in. Even if it gets close to 10% on that top line, I still think that's fine. They actually had Sidney Crosby had a hat trick the other night. Cliffy said that he had a lot of good performances, not a great performances. Then he, went out and scored a hat trick. Maybe Sidney Crosby, a avid stochastic NHL strategy show listener. But yeah, this is a good spot there. They are 22,400. The one thing that is a tad concerning on Pit 1, Cliffy put it into our premium Discord this morning. The defensive numbers for McLeod and Barat together have been actually really good. And, they'll probably get the Devils top pair as well. So for that reason, I think I really like Pittsburgh 2 here. And they're going to go up against Mercer, Holtz, and Toffoli, which, it's the Canadiens' problem. Very fun offensive, probably not very good defensively. So I don't know, man. I like Pittsburgh 2 here. On the Devils side, we'll have to wait and see the lineup. But if Timo is in, I don't mind taking a stab on that top line. We'll just have to wait and see until warmups.
Yeah. What I was mentioning about Bratt and McLeod, it's not even just off defensively, it's offensively too, right? They're up to 82 minutes together. 3.9 expected goals for per 60, 1.6 against, 1.6. That's like a third lower than the league average, if not more. Like, that's really, really good defensive numbers. They haven't been on the ice for a goal against at 5-on-5 yet. And when you consider that they lost Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, the fact that the top line is not allowed a goal against yet at 5-on-5 is pretty remarkable. It's only been, I think, four, maybe 5 games without both of them, but still, like, that's pretty good defensive metrics. Like, Pittsburgh's top line, like, they're, I wrote them up in the picks article today for a reason. They've been probably the best offensive line at 5-on-5 in the league. 39 lines in the NHL with at least 80 minutes together. They're first by expected goals and second by actual goals per 60 minutes. Like, they're just beating the piss out of everybody. You're right. That matchup is a little bit of a concern for me, especially priced where they are, right? Like, this is an Arizona 1 priced under $16K. This is Pittsburgh 1 over 22,000 on DraftKings. That's keeping their ownership low, and that's one of the reasons why I do like Pittsburgh. Also, like, there are a lot of filler lines on this slate, right? Like, you have Calgary, you have Seattle, you have Montreal, you have Columbus, you have Arizona, you have Chicago. Like, there are a plethora of filler lines you can use. So I'm not that worried about using a $22,000 line. The worry is the matchup against Michael McLeod, because it's not just his numbers in that sample. His defensive numbers on the whole this year have been phenomenal. I was just looking at the defensive metrics over on Evolving Hockey. Like, by far the best regular defensive forward they've had so far this year. So I don't want to overstate his impact in just one game. And Pittsburgh's top line has been able to tear apart just about anybody that they played. Like, you don't get to be arguably the best top line offensively in the league this year without being able to tear apart other top lines, regardless of how good they are defensively. It's just, do I want to spend $22,400 and find that out? They're still in consideration for me. I do like Pitt 1 a lot because of the ownership, especially. And otherwise, it is a good matchup. Like, New Jersey's penalty kill is nothing to worry about, especially with Hischier out. Their numbers have not been that great, really. Pittsburgh's not drawing a lot of power plays, which is a bit of a concern. But I think I'm with you. I do like Pitt 2 here. The New Jersey second line, Mercer and Holtz. Like, I don't like Mercer that much. I do like Holtz as a player, or as a prospect anyway. Not very good defensively. 79 shot attempts against per 60 minutes in their time together since the injuries happened. They've been not good defensively at all. So I'm with you. Malkin, Smith, Raquel, Pitt 2. I think that's my favorite line. But, like, that's also more of a pricing thing. They're $5,200 cheaper. Like, that's a lot. That gets you from literally a min-price defenseman to the most expensive defenseman on the slate. Like, it's not a small difference. So I think price inclusive, I do like Pitt 2 here, but both Pittsburgh top lines very much in play. Pittsburgh 3 also kind of in play. Honestly, I don't think you necessarily need it on this slate. Like, there's no McDavid in Edmonton. There's no Toronto. Like, maybe you need it for a Florida stack or a Tampa Bay stack. But, Pittsburgh 3 has been a really, really good third line. Don't mind like a Lars Eller, Drew O'Connor 2-man or something like that. But Pitt 2 and Pitt 1 for me. On the New Jersey side, I think it's just a pass. They're all coming in fairly over-owned per the top stacks tool. Top line has been pretty good, not great. Pittsburgh doesn't take a ton of penalties either. The Pittsburgh penalty kill has been really, really good too. So even if Myers on the top line, it doesn't change a whole lot for me. I think if I'm stacking anything out of this game, it's Pitt 1 or Pitt 2, maybe Pitt 3, are also moving along.
Yeah. I don't like to give Crosby a bunch of praise. But did you see that tip goal he had for the hat trick? That was disgusting.
Best player of his generation for a reason, bud.
Yep. Still a big whiner. We mentioned the premium Discord a little bit earlier, but if you sign up using the link in the description box below, you get access to the best NHL data and tools in the industry. You get player and ownership projections, the top stacks tools, the lines combinations, and that Discord. Whole bunch of sharp minds in there will help you out if you need it. Got strategy questions, you got lineup questions, just ask away. Cliffy's article, always free to read on stochastic.com. Our show, always free to view on YouTube. But if you want to take your game to the next level, get in that link in the description below. You can sign up for weekly or monthly. You can add on Fantasy Cruncher if you want and get in that Discord and level up. Thanks, Fantasy Cruncher. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, man. Steroids, baby. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.7 total heading into Chicago. The Bedards have a 2.9 total. Hey, here we go again. Like, I have interest in Bedard here. It's just like, why are we playing with Nick Foligno and Philip Kurashev? And why aren't we playing with, like, Lucas Reichel and Ryan Donato or whomever? Taylor Hall, if he's in, whatever. I think Bedard one-off is fine. It's a good spot. Bedard's ridiculous. But my interest in this game is mostly on the Tampa side here. Tampa won. Pretty expensive. They're a little bit cheaper than Pitt won here. And they're getting more ownership. They're $800 cheaper to fit. Is it a better matchup? Probably. That being said, we were talking about this line specifically a little bit before the show. I think if you're going to play them, you full stack them because you were mentioning that Hagel was half the ownership of Kucherov on the last few slates. So I don't know why you would leave Hagel off. I get it because he's not on the top power play unit or whatever. But this, like, it's an okay power play spot. It's not as good as a spot as you think it is. It's not like going into Montreal or going into Anaheim or going into, I don't know. It's just not the best power play spot. Will they get power play? Sure. Can they score? Absolutely. But I think you need to, if you're worried about the ownership, I think what you do is just full stack with Hagel. Or if you want a power play stack, you leave Hagel off, you put on Paul, you put on Stamkos, you can get different. So Tampa won for me in this game.
Yeah. Obviously I do like Tampa one as well. It's that ownership is pretty crazy, right? Like 17.6% on the top line. Like I'm going to compare them with Pittsburgh here. 17.6% on the top line, 6% on Pittsburgh one. Now, obviously, they have a higher top two stack percentage, but it's nowhere near triple the top two stack percentage. So it's one of those things where everything lines up for a pretty good matchup for Tampa Bay here, obviously. Like Chicago's just a bad 5-on-5 team, and it doesn't really matter the matchup that they use. They had been using the Jason Dickinson line in a shutdown matchup. They weren't very good defensively. Jason Dickinson's now down on the third line. So I imagine the third line is going to be used as a shutdown line. So it'll be interesting to see how Jason Dickinson and Corey Perry do against Tampa 1 here tonight. I think Perry's on the third line now. I'm going to be honest. I don't memorize the Chicago bottom six line combinations. But it's a pretty good matchup for Tampa. You and I bring up often how the Chicago penalty kill has been pretty good basically since the All-Star game last year. Now, that's been the case again this year where it's been pretty good. Has fallen off a little bit of late. They have been allowing a few goals on the penalty kill so far in November. But overall, on the whole, they're still top 10 for fewest shot attempts allowed while on the PK. They're basically in the middle of the league for goals against. Chicago doesn't take a ton of penalties. Like they're right around the league average. Tampa Bay doesn't draw a lot of power plays either. They're below league average in that regard. They're just really efficient in the ones they do get. They're kind of like Dallas in that sense. So, like, I'm not going to say don't play Tampa 1 because, like, with Hagel there, their numbers are, last year they were great. This year they're great again. 3.1 expected goals for, 4.6 actual goals for. They're only shooting 11% as a line, which is pretty normal, like perfectly normal for a top line over a full season, for a great top line over a full season. And they're scoring 4.6 goals, which is absolutely absurd. And, Nikita Kucherov, I wrote about him in the picks article today. He's reached a DK shot bonus in 8 games already so far this year. He's only played 15. Like, he's getting the shot bonus in half his games. So I think there's definitely some merit to maybe one-offing some guys. It's just, if I only have to pay an extra $800 to get a perfectly correlated Pittsburgh top line at a third of the ownership, like at home on top of that, I think that's a pretty easy trade-off for me. Now, it's not to say I don't like Tampa 1 or it's a bad spot or they're going to be shut down by a great shutdown. Like none of those things are true. It's basically just that for, $800 more, I can get a third of the ownership of Pittsburgh 1. Like that's just kind of what I'm running up against. So Tampa 1 certainly in play. Tampa 2, I think they're fine, but I don't know why they keep going back to Cirelli and Stamkos. Like those guys have just not played well together for a few years now. Like it's not just some small sample thing. They've been bad this year together. They were bad last year together. They just trying to keep, ramming a square peg into a round hole. And it's just not working. So like Tampa 2 is fine. I think Tampa 3 actually would be a little bit more interesting. Esamon Janot, like a 2-man if you need something super cheap, but it's Tampa 1 or bust for me on their side. Chicago, I agree with you. Like one-offing Bedard is something I wrote about him today in the picks article. It's something that I'm interested in. Just basically anytime he's on the slate, but Jonas Johansson looks like he's going to be in net for Tampa again. 6 straight games for Jonas Johansson giving up at least 4 goals. Like I'm really surprised they're not going to Tompkins here tonight. 861 save percentage in those 6 games. He's just really fallen apart. So I do like Bedard quite a bit here tonight as a one-off. I just don't think I'm going to full out stack his line. So Bedard one-off, certainly Tampa 1. I just think Tampa's coming a little bit overowned.
Yeah, I agree there. Vancouver Canucks with a 3.1 total heading into Calgary. The Flames have a 3.5 total. Oh, boy. Here we go with the Vancouver Canucks because, man, are they power play dependent. And, man, are they not getting a lot of ownership. And, man, is the Calgary goaltending bad. I guess like in MME, you can make like a Vancouver power play stack. I think they have a 3.1 total. It's nothing to sneeze at, you know what I mean? And they're getting no ownership at all. I think, even in 20 max, you have like 1 of 20 Vancouver 2, 1 of 20 Vancouver 1, you go on your way. In 1 to 3, it's a bit of a dilemma because, well, not really, because like the Flames are a pretty good team 5-on-5. It's just the goaltending that lets them down, and you don't really stack the Canucks for 5-on-5 anyway. So if anything on the Canucks side, it's a power play stack. The Flame side is what's more interesting to me. I used Kadri Zari Pospisil the other night. They got there. They're still only 12,500, and they're coming in a little bit lower owned than the Backlund, Huberdeau, Coleman line. I don't mind going back to the Kadri line. You want to go to that top line, Lindholm, Manji. Like, I think all 3 lines are in play for Calgary. What do you think?
So I'll get to Calgary in a second, but just so we're all clear here, Brock Besser is tied for the league lead in goals. JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, and Quinn Hughes are all tied for the league lead in points, if I'm not mistaken, or at least Miller and Pettersson are.
And Hughes with 26.
And none of the lines are projected for 1% here tonight against,
I don't know, man.
Against Jacob Markstrom, who has had some good games recently, but is still sitting with a 905 save percentage on the season. No one's playing Vancouver. It really.
They're back-to-back on the road, but it doesn't matter.
I get it, but like,
it doesn't matter.
If I can get the guys that are leading the league in scoring at under 1%, like, I'm having a tough time not playing Vancouver, and they were not on my radar at all when I was researching the slate this morning. Like, I go game by game and see, what some of the trends are in matchups and line combinations and all that. See who's been shooting and who's not shooting, et cetera, et cetera. I went through my normal routine researching that game, and then I go and look at top stacks, and not a single one of their lines are projected at 1% ownership. The top stacks tool changed how I'm looking at this slate entirely. Just that, just Vancouver. Like, I get not wanting to. I think the line I would stay away from is Pettersson, Kuzmenko, and Mikheyev. Kuzmenko left the game last night. He got hit with a puck. Now, it looks like he should be in tonight. They said he's fine. but I don't know if he's going to play for sure. And that might not be something we'll find out until warm-ups. Like, I'm assuming he's in. I'm building as if Kuzmenko is playing tonight. It doesn't seem like it's 100% guarantee. Now, they're going to be getting that Backlund-Coleman line, and I want to avoid that shutdown line, like, at all costs. Like, it's just a brutal shutdown matchup. But Miller, Besser, DiGiuseppe, they're going to be going up against, that Kadri, Zeri, Pospisil line, which, has looked pretty good offensively, but we still don't know what they are defensively. That Vancouver second line, like, as we always talk about, they're the ones that usually get Quinn Hughes behind them on the blue line when they're on the road, and that's probably going to be the case here again tonight. So you'll get JT Miller on the ice with Quinn Hughes, which is exactly where you want JT Miller and Brock Besser to be, if we're going to be honest. So I have interest in that Miller, Besser, DiGiuseppe line. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand all the percentages. I know that they're all going to regress at some point. But even if they regress, if they're still well above average offensively, which I think they will be, at under 1% ownership on an 8-game slate, it's hard to ignore. So I like Vancouver 2 here. Miller, Bessie, DiGiuseppe, they're going to avoid that Coleman shutdown line. 3.4 goals per 60 minutes so far this season. JT Miller has 25 shot attempts in his last 5 games, so he's still staying involved shooting. I do like Vancouver 2 here in this matchup. On the Calgary side, like, they're basically all the same line to me at this point. Honestly. I think if anything, I would probably stack the Backlund, Huberdeau, Coleman line. Like I said, I think Huberdeau in the long term will be pretty good for Coleman and Backlund's goal scoring. They're going up against that Vancouver top line, which has not been that great defensively. They've been fine, not great. They won't have Quinn Hughes on the blue line behind them for a lot of the game. So I do like Backlund, Huberdeau, Coleman. They do have 3 playable lines here tonight against Vancouver. Like, Vancouver is on that road back-to-back, so with DeSmith and Net. So, yeah, there are 3 playable lines here from Calgary. I do like the Backlund line the best. I think it's Vancouver, too. I like best in this entire game, though.
Yeah, and just to, Calgary is a pretty good 5-on-5 team. But their penalty kill really hasn't been great either. And Vancouver's power play has been very good. So, well, I think maybe we just talked ourselves into Vancouver.
Not again.
What I'm not going to do is talk myself into this game. The New York Islanders with a 3 total heading into Seattle. The Kraken also have a 3 total. This is a game, I guess.
Somebody's going to get 2 points here. That's for sure.
I mean, if anything from this game, I'm going to go back to the McCann, Beniers, Eberle line and call it a day. Like, you want to one-off Eli Tolvanen or Bjorkstrand, that's fine as well. On the Islanders side, like, I guess Islanders' second line is fine. Like, they had a pretty good game last night. Brock Nelson scored, Pierre Engvall scored, but I don't know. I'm not going to make my living in single entry attacking this game where both teams are on a back-to-back with 3 totals. I think, if anything, I like Semyon Varlamov the most in this game.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I saw Twitter today talking about kind of how the Islanders are running their offense, and this is the honest to God's truth. When Adam Pelech, the defenseman, and Matt Barzal are on the ice, Adam Pelech is taking 22% of the shots. When Bo Horvat is on the ice with Matt Barzal, Bo Horvat's taking 19% of the shots. Bo Horvat is shooting less than Adam Pelech when they're on the ice, when they're all on the ice together. That is how the Islanders are choosing to run their offense. Like, this isn't some mistake. This is what they did last year and the year before, was they ran their offense through their defense. Now, it can work. Look at Colorado, right? Colorado does it to great success. Carolina does it to great success. Those 2 teams aren't doing it with Adam Pelech and Scott Mayfield. You know what I mean? And Alex Romanoff is at like 24%. He's taking 24% of the shots when he's on the ice with the top line. Almost a quarter of the shots the Islanders are taking with the top line on the ice with Romanov on the blue line are coming from Alex Romanoff. Like, that is no way to run this offense. I don't watch the Islanders enough to have concrete opinion of them. I've maybe watched like 2 of their games so far this year. There's only so much time to go around each night with so many games.
Too many.
How in the world does Lane Lambert still have a job? Like, honestly, and I know a lot of fans have been calling for him to get fired. How do you run that? How do you have Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat deferring to defensemen like Adam Pelech and Alex Romanoff for shots? Like, how does that happen? I don't know how you expect to succeed offensively like that. Anyways, rant over. If you're wondering why the top line can't score any better than most third lines so far this year, that's why. And it's basically like, yeah, like they're coming in 1% to 2% owned here tonight. Seattle's goaltending's not always been great. The matchup's not really terrible. Seattle did get back Jordan Eberle last night. He's going to be on the top line going up against that Islanders top line. I'd rather play the Seattle top line. I'm going to be honest. I'm with you on Islanders too. Nelson Palmieri and Engvall, they're coming in with almost no ownership. They've still been really, really good this year. Creating 4.1 expected goals, 2.9 actual goals per 60 minutes. Nelson's dipped a little bit below 3 shots per game. That's a little worrisome. I'm worried that they're deferring to defensemen too. So please stop doing that. But it is Islanders. It's Islanders 2 or nothing for me on that side. Like I go through all this diatribe, and you know exactly what's happening tonight. Is Barzal and Horvat going to have dueling hat tricks? It's going to be like a 13-1 game for the Islanders. Like
they'll at least be like 1.2%, and it'd be mostly an MME. In the single entries, there might be like 3 people doing it. So
yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I don't mind that Bjorkstrand, Tolvin, and Gord line. They're like, it looks like they're trying to leave Gord on the power play, which is, it's something. Him and Bjorkstrand are on the same power play unit, so I don't mind that. But it is McCann, Beniers, Eberle that I like the best in this game overall. McCann and Eberle both play on the same power play unit. Ownership on DraftKings coming in under 6%, a little over-owned, but I think that's just fine for an 8-game slate when they're at home. I think Varlamov would be the biggest concern here. It's like he's been better than Sorokin so far this year. So, maybe he can just shut down Seattle. But I do like Seattle 1 here. In order, it'd be Seattle 1, Islanders 2, Seattle 3.
Yeah, tough scene for Sorokin last night, giving up a nat hat to Evander Kane in like 3 minutes. That was just miserable for DFS because no one ever plays Kane anymore, except for the people who did, and they all passed me. Anyway, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are sponsored by Vivid Picks. You can get a $300 deposit match on your first deposit. The standard deposit match is $100, so you won't get this offer anywhere else by clicking the link in the description below. Your first entry on Viv Picks comes with a $25 secure play. So if your first entry loses, you get it refunded up to $25 in Vivid site credit. Predict whether players have more or less than their projected stats across multiple sports and combine your selections for bigger payouts. Click the link in the description below. Just do it. Do it. Cardi and Cola. Do it. Florida Panthers with a 3.2 total heading into Los Angeles. Our Kings, 3.4 total. This is a front end of a back-to-back for the Flyers, so I don't know who's going to be in net tonight for them.
The Panthers.
What did I say?
Flyers.
I always do that. I don't know why I do that.
It's a weird mix-up to make.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Kings in practice yesterday kind of flip-flopped their power play units a little bit. They moved Byfield up to the top unit and moved Pierre-Luc Dubois to the second unit. So there's more correlation for LA1 and LA3. I had line matching questions that we kind of got answered by Cliffy in DMs. He thinks the Kopitar line is going to go out against the Barkov line. That would leave probably the Trevor Moore Deneau line to go out against Florida 2. So it's probably going to be 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. That kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. I don't know what to make of this game, really, because it's a 6.5 total going towards 7. I like this game. I just don't know where to go in this game.
Yeah, there is. It is one of those, like, I like all the players that are in this game. I just don't know exactly where we're going to be going here. Philly was just in Los Angeles over the weekend, and Anze Kopitar spent 54% of his 5-on-5 time against the top line. So I assume it's going to be Kopitar as the shutdown matchup going up against Barkov. The problem with that is both top lines are pretty good defensively. I would probably give the edge to the Florida side defensively anyway. Might actually give the edge to the Los Angeles side offensively. That's a different discussion for a different day. I'm not going to argue those 2 points right now. But the Kings top line has been pretty good so far this year. 3.4 expected goals, 4.1 actual goals. Byfield had 27 shot attempts over a 5-game stretch before getting blanked against the Kings, or against the Flyers on Saturday. So he had been getting more involved offensively and not just playmaking. In a nutshell, I do like Los Angeles 1 here. I'll bring up the top stacks tool. As you mentioned, Los Angeles not coming with much ownership, 3.5%, 17,100 on DraftKings here tonight. In a nutshell, I do like them. I think the issue that I'm running up against is that it's a pretty bad matchup against Barkov. And the Florida second line has not been great yet. They've been pretty good. Just a small sample since Sam Bennett returned. Fiala, Moore, and Deneau have struggled a little bit over the last couple of years, but they've been pretty dominant possession-wise, and I think they're going to see some time against the Florida third line as well. Like Los Angeles will be sending out their middle six against the opposing middle six and not be super concerned about which line is which. So I do like Los Angeles 2 here. Fiala, Moore, and Deneau, like they're coming in with positive leverage, under 5% ownership per top stacks, over 5% expected top 2 stack percentage. They're reasonably priced. Like they're 15,400. So they're one of those pivots that I like away from a super chalky Arizona stack that we talked about at the top of the show. So I do like Kings 2 here the best. I do think Kings 1 is certainly in play now that Byfield is on the top power play unit. They're perfectly correlated. Problem is like Florida's penalty kill has actually been pretty good this year. It's just the goaltending that's kind of let them down. It's basically the reverse of the Columbus situation that we talked about earlier, where Columbus's penalty kill has not been very good, but the goaltending has saved them. But I do like Los Angeles too. The issue is I think I like Florida's top line the best in this game. Florida won 3 expected goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. I think at this point you can probably leave Rodriguez off. He's just not been shooting a lot lately. 15 shots in his last 10 games. That's really like 10-game sample now. That's really not a lot for him. But the other 2 guys have still been generating quite a bit of offense. The Kings goaltending, like Talbot's been good, pretty good. Hasn't been elite all year. I'm worried Talbot's just kind of ran hot for like 3 weeks. So I think I like Florida 1 the best here. Like I said, the Kings top line, 2.6 expected goals against per 60 minutes. That's about league average. Like that's not an elite defensive line. That's not like a Jordan Staal in Carolina or Joel Eriksson in Minnesota or Michael Backlund in Calgary, like we just talked about. It's not that. 2.6 expected goals against is something that Florida 1 can overcome. So I do like Florida 1, I think the best in this game. So for me, it'd be Florida 1, Los Angeles 2, and then Los Angeles 1, and then Florida 2, mainly because Florida's second line's having trouble generating quality with Bennett there this year. That wasn't the case last year in a much bigger sample, so maybe it's just a wonky small sample. But before I see it, before I put money on it and put them in a lineup, I kind of want to see it happen. I don't want to be, it's not one of the spots I'm wanting to get in on the ground floor. It's one of the spots that I'm willing to adjust to once they break out. So no Florida 2 for me here tonight.
Yeah, this game is tricky, but that was a good breakdown there. Let's move on to the Sharks. Why do we got to talk about the Sharks? This is the worst Sharks game ever this season so far. The St. Louis Blues with a 3.5 total heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 2.6 total. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to play the Blues here. Blues suck. The Sharks suck. Even worse. I'm looking at the ownership here, and like, ownership agnostic, I wanted to play Shen, Kyrou, Saad. Like, I think they're the best offensive line the Blues have. But, like, they're coming in with more than double the ownership of Thomas and Buchnevich, who are both on the top power play unit. I think you could just power play stack the Blues here. It's like, it just feels bad because the Blues power play is atrocious. But the Sharks are the worst team in the history of life. So, like, I just don't, like, I am conflicted on this game too. And then on the flip side, like, negative leverage San Jose won, like, I've done it before, and it's like I'm not going to make a living playing Hurdle and Eklund with like 1.7 expected goals per 60. I don't care if it's Bennington and net. I don't care if it's an empty net. Like 1.7 goals for a top line that's getting 7% and negative leverage. Like, I'd rather just go to sleep and hope that this game doesn't burn me.
94 shot attempts against per 60 minutes with Hurdle and Eklund on the ice. Like, I think that's like, that would be like a low high end penalty kill. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's awful.
They're getting ran over. There's no matchup concerns on San Jose side at all. You're talking about ownership for St. Louis. The reason why the Kyrou line's looking like it's going to be much higher owned is because Jordan Kyrou individually is probably going to be the highest owned St. Louis Blues skater here tonight. Because he's the guy that shoots, right? And at least on DraftKings, the guy who, he is the one who knocks. He is the one who shoots. And the guys who shoot typically draw all the ownership. So, just for that reason alone, Thomas Buchnevich and Kapanen is where I want to go. They haven't been great offensively by expected goals, 2 expected goals per 60 minutes, but it's 4.6 actual goals. And they are shooting 16.6%, and that's high. That's very high. Don't get me wrong. But this is kind of, if St. Louis is living up, I shouldn't say St. Louis, if Thomas and Buchnevich are living up to what they're capable of doing, like an 11% shooting line or something like that would be about right. So that means I think this line can be north of 3 goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5 for the balance of the season. And that's a pretty good scoring line. Coming in under 15K, coming in at about 3 to 4% ownership. Kapanen is going to be left off a lot of stacks. I think you're going to see some Thomas Buchnevich, Kyrou stacks, obviously, because Kyrou, again, is the one that shoots. But Thomas and Buchnevich, like Buchnevich being priced where he is, like I kind of get it in one sense, because there have been a lot of times where St. Louis has struggled offensively this year. But Buchnevich is also shooting a lot more than he was last year, right? Like, he's up to, I think, like 2.2 or 2.3 shots per game, which, that's not a lot, but he was under 2 shots per game last year. So he's shooting more. He's still scoring as well. Like, he's on pace for like a 27 or 28 goal season. It's Thomas and Buchnevich that I like here, and by quite a bit. And even if that ownership comes up, with more projection runs, but even if it gets to 5, 6, 7%, I really don't care. This Sharks team, like 7% ownership on an 8-game slate against this Sharks team for this top line, like absolutely no problem. So Thomas, Buchnevich, Kapanen. I mean, on the San Jose side, like you were talking about all the ownership that's going to be on him, like it's not going to be extreme. I think like a one-off Zetterlund or a one-off Eklund, like I think you can do that. A full stacking, like I don't think it makes a lot of sense. So maybe some one-off from San Jose, Buchnevich line from St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Robert Thomas expected goals numbers kind of falter, kind of like what Barkov's do. They're not like similar players, but like he's one of those guys like that kind of breaks expected goals. Like, because Buchnevich is one of the better two-way wingers in the NHL. Kapanen is whatever, but like, I don't know. You would expect that line to have better expected goals numbers.
I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and for his career, last 3 years, Robert Thomas is barely above average by expected goals for metrics, at least at even strength. But his actual goals for metrics are really strong, like 95th percentile in the league. So yeah, he is one of those players who could probably break expected goals metrics.
Yeah. That was a fun slate. I don't know what I'm doing. I literally I have the same routine every day, and I say it. Like, I get ready for the show. I have an idea what I want to do. Today I had no idea. I talked through it. I still don't know what I want to do. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about defensemen and goalies. Quinn Hughes at the top of the list today at 7,500. I kind of think that price is fine. He's not like prime Brent Burns when Burns was like 8,300 getting combo meals and 3-point bonuses and all that kind of stuff. But he had 6 shots on goal last night. He had a goal and assist. I think, he's live for the points bonus. He's live for a shot bonus. So don't mind Quinn Hughes. After that, like Pietrangelo and Theodore and Carlson, those trio, right, at 65 to 6,000, I'm interested in. Who you liking there and mid-range guys?
I mean, Carlson is the guy I wrote up in the picks article. He has 9 points in 5 games so far in November. Like, he's been as advertised since he got to Pittsburgh. Like, he's not going to protect well because he's not shooting and blocking a ton of shots, but he's the number 2 defenseman by Stokastic's projections. So I do like Carlson. Dougie Hamilton was the next guy. Like, the Devils haven't been as good without Hischier and Hughes, but he's still shooting a ton. And I don't think he's going to carry a lot of ownership here tonight. So Hamilton and Shea Theodore, because you were talking about Vegas's great power play spot. Like, if people don't want to play the Vegas top line, I think playing Shea Theodore instead just makes a lot of sense. In the mid-price range, the 2 guys that really stuck out to me are in the same game, actually, Mikhail Sergachev and Seth Jones. I think our boss, Jake Harry, was saying that Seth Jones looks like he's going to be the highest owned defenseman here tonight, which feels wild to me. But I mean, I kind of get it, I guess. But him and Sergachev, I don't mind Zach Werenski as well. Cheap guys, Jordan Spence, like 2,600 running that second power play unit for the Kings, and they've been getting more power play time. He's not going to get a lot of ice time. He might only get like 15 minutes, but like 3 of those minutes might be on the power play. So don't mind Spence if you got to dip down. Matt Dumba, 2,700. With Valimaki gone, the guys that are there are going to have to probably play a few more minutes. So Matt Dumba, I think, certainly makes a lot of sense. Zach Whitecloud, 2,500 for Vegas in that Montreal matchup if you need a min-price guy. I wrote up Dmitry Kulikov. He's playing 21 minutes a game, probably going to have to block a lot of shots against Los Angeles. Jonas Siegenthaler at 3K for New Jersey might have to block a lot of shots here tonight. If you want to pay up a little bit more, Torrey Krug and Noah Hannafin, both running power play units, both running what I guess would be considered the top power play units for the teams. I think one's 3,900, one's 3,700, something like that on DraftKings. So don't mind them. And JJ Mosier from Arizona, he's probably, I think he's the only regular left-handed shot defenseman they have now that Valimaki's hurt. Like I think Travis Dermott is also a lefty, but he's in and out of the lineup. I could see a lot of Valimaki's minutes going to JJ Mosier, so I don't mind him either.
I have a hard time believing Seth Jones is going to be the highest owned defenseman on the slate. If Seth Jones is the highest defenseman on the slate, I will get a Seth Jones jersey tattooed on my quad.
I mean, you just said it on a live stream with hundreds of people that are going to be witness to this. So, sorry, man.
I'm just saying. I have a feeling like Torrey Krug might be more higher owned at 3,900 with his game log right now. He's playing, 22 minutes a night. He, I don't know. He's been close to 23 straight games. He's getting the Sharks. So, but Seth Jones, highest. I'll live stream me getting a Seth Jones tattoo on my quad.
Okay.
Smash the like for that. I'm just a mess today. Who you liking not that quad. Mrs. Harris says there's no room on the quad. The other quad.
Can you ask her where she goes?
I think she's getting her dad. Who you looking for your hat trick pick?
I'm going back to the Montreal game, and a guy wrote up in my picks article today. I'm going with Mr. Mark Stone.
That's a good one. Someone asked me, when am I getting the Stützle jersey? I went to NHL Shop, and they didn't have Stützle. They had everybody but Stützle. I'm looking for an alternative. If you want to shoot me a message on Twitter, where to get. Someone sent me one. It was like cool jerseys, but I want like an authentic like Stützle jersey. Yeah, my hat trick pick, Riley Smith.
Perfect. Goalies?
Oh, yeah, we forgot to talk about goalies. I'm just talking about tattoos on my quad, getting yelled at by my wife. She's not really yelling at me. She's very supportive and wonderful. I know you're itching to play Jonas Johansson at 8,400 tonight. Yeah, no. Like, there just really isn't a goalie that stands out to me. Like, Varlamov is probably my favorite at 7,600. I think, like, Cam Talbot is fine at 8,100 if you think his season's legit. Like, the top here is Aiden Hill, 8,500, and I think he's fine, but he needs a shutout. He's been excellent this year, though. Like, I have no interest in Jonas Johansson, 8,400, Bennington, 8,300. Yari, I guess, is fine at 8,200. Who are you liking?
I mean, I think for me it's Varlamov because it's one of those things like I always talk about. Like, if the Islanders win this game tonight, it's probably not because they outscored Seattle 6-5, right? It's probably because Varlamov holds Seattle to like one, maybe 2 goals or something like that. So if the Islanders win, it's probably because of Varlamov, and because of that, I like his price at 7,600 on DraftKings. For an expensive guy, I don't mind Tristan Jarry here. Like, you know, New Jersey's still been able to generate some shots even without their top centers in the lineup. If you want to pay down, I think, you know, Caden Primo, 6,700. That's pretty hard to pass up, man. Like, $1,700 cheaper than Jonas Johansson. I'm sorry. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Even though I don't even think Primo's a good goalie. Like, obviously Johansson sucks. Like, what are we even talking about here? Casey DeSmith, I know it kind of sucks, but it's another one of the, I mean, Vancouver certainly can outscore Calgary, but Calgary does generate quite a few shot attempts. DeSmith has not been bad this year, so I don't mind him. Sergei Bobrovsky, again, if he's starting, if you need a cheap goalie, don't mind Bobrovsky here tonight, but just be aware that he may not start.
Yeah. And your point about DeSmith, Calgary creates a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality. So also, a couple of people are saying they're going to they're going to put Seth Jones into the lineup now. That's fine. We're going to look in the DraftKings $15 contest. That's the contest we're going to look.
If we were smart, every day we would put one lineup in the $15 of all the lines and players that we slander, lines, players, goalies, whatever. Because I feel like we would probably hit once or twice a year.
We would be in a remote area of Portugal living the dream right now.
Yeah, we would.
We will be back Saturday. I'm not sure what the slate looks like tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's three games tomorrow night, one in the afternoon, so we won't have a show.
Okay, so we will be back Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Make sure to smash that like button on the way out, especially if Seth Jones is the highest owned player. This video needs to get a lot of likes. But click that link in the description below if you want to join the Discord and get your premium stuff. But good luck, everybody, tonight.
Like.
Good luck tonight, everyone.